Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Legends Library. I'm Cade, and I'm joined again by Keith today.
Hello, Keith here, Lore Master Extraordinaire.
Yes, yes. And a couple months tardy to the party, but I'm basically stealing this idea. I had saw it on TikTok a couple months ago where it was No Nuance November. And basically, you just presented your hot takes on, well, basically anything without any sort of context. And so I thought we would do the same thing, but then I didn't think of it until December, and we didn't get around to recording it until January. So here we are. Stick around, and you will get to hear all of our amazing and probably, hopefully, controversial hot takes.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, so jumping right in here. My first hot take is it's that the prequels, they're not that good, and prequel memes have been done to death. They're overdone. They're overcooked.
Whoa!
Overcooked. Get them out of the oven. Take them off the grill because they're burning. Because they're overdone.
Hold on, Kate. I think I can hear the villagers grabbing their torches and pitchforks right now.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, like, I don't know when it became a hot take to say that the prequels aren't that good. I would say probably in like the past, like
5 years.
Yeah, like 5 years. And I think we touched on it a little bit in our previous video, detailing Star Wars, the Star Wars Theory Anakin's Fall video, that response that we did. But it ends up being a lot of people who, like, to quote myself from that video, it's a lot of people trying to make chicken shit in a chicken salad, and that it's like, and I can understand it too, a part of it that, like, they grew up with the prequels and they grew up with them getting, kind of dumped on by like the previous generation. And so, but now that kind of generation, like people about our age are, they are now having a presence, they're having a voice, they're having like their presence known online. And so they're saying, no, the prequels are great. Just ignore half of episode 1, 90% of episode 2, and probably I would say about half of episode 3. So, we're basically ignoring like 1.5 movies. But apparently the prequels are secretly genius as long as you ignore, most of it.
I only watch the prequels for the memes.
And, well, see, that's the other thing. Like, your crappy Obi-Wan High Ground meme that someone has posted the same one of 50 times, it's not revolutionary. It's not comedy science. And your memes are not a defense of the movies. It's like, yeah, and I think I think I mentioned that in our previous video. But it reminds me of The Room, where, yeah, you can make fun of The Room and all this, but like, it's very different at the same time. Like, you can enjoy a movie that is so bad, like The Room, because it, for the memes, because it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark, I did not hit her. It's bullshit. But when movies are trying like super hard to be serious and like Shakespearean and like a Greek tragedy, like the prequels are, and the biggest thing that people remember is like the memes, it's like, then did you really succeed that well? I don't know. That's my take on it. I mean, I know that you like the prequels a lot more than I do. So.
Even then, I'm not like a prequel apologizer. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Like,
but
like you're not going to sit and defend the romance scenes on Naboo or anything.
no, I will be right along there with you, casting stones. Okay, but I would say that the prequels got more popular probably along with the Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars TV show made them more popular too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would definitely agree with that because, well, I'll get into it one of my later points, but like a lot of people have this like assumption or this belief again also that the Clone Wars somehow fixed the prequels, but I'll touch on that one later. So what's your first hot take?
Yes. So mine is also having to do with the prequel era, specifically the Clone Wars comics, the Dark Horse Clone Wars comics, which I think are great. Um, but I just recently reread them, and after rereading other other some of my other favorite comics from Legends, I found the general story arcs of the Clone Wars kind of lacking. Um, like I just felt like individual issues were really good and stuff, and some of the story arcs were a little interesting, but overall there wasn't much of a story, like a general story arc for this entire Clone Wars thing, right? The whole Clone Wars comic.
I could kind of agree, I guess. I mean, I haven't reread the Republic comics in probably since I was in high school. But no, I do remember there were long periods of time where, and I mean, I guess it just kind of ends up happening in any comic series, like whether it's like Spider-Man or Superman. Like, obviously there are going to be issues where it's like, oh my, nothing happened. But I mean, I think I wouldn't say they're not good, obviously, which you're not saying either, but like I would definitely say they're up there with like the best of the Star Wars comics, I would say, because obviously,
Yeah.
and it could be I'm just like looking back, and like I said, I haven't reread them in many years, but like I could just be going back and remembering all the big points, like Jabim, or like all the fights they have with Ventress, Grievous, doing lots of cool stuff. The battle
Well,
with
if I
Seleucami.
could use the if I could use like the Jabim arc as an example, because that's a very popular arc, it's very well known and big arc. The overall story of it was very simple, I guess, but maybe that was the point, right? The Jedi are trapped on Jabim because of storm interference, so they can't land ships, they can't get out, and they're basically being slowly killed off by this madman who's like he's basically a patriot of the planet, for lack of a better word. He's not force sensitive, and this dude just murks Jedi and he hates them. That's interesting, but the overall story arc just wasn't very interesting. Like there wasn't anything, there was no nuance. There's not, like, I don't know, like the whole story arc ends with everybody, spoiler, everybody dying along with the dude. And I guess, like it definitely leaves an impression, like, like, oh, holy shit, like the Clone Wars is pretty dark, pretty gritty stuff. But,
yeah, well, I think, I don't know, I think a good part that those comics did, and they did very well, was like they kind of like made sure to like they made sure to like have it all be like a really close knit like continuity, especially within regards to like Legends, the EU, whatever.
Yeah.
Because like they reference that a lot in like the episode 3 novel. They reference a lot of stuff that happened in it and all that. So like they did a really good job with that. And yeah, I'll have to just take your word on it until I go back and reread it, because I'm sure we'll go through and read it one day for the podcast. But
oh, I just had one little thing I wanted to add. Then I'm done. Just about like they're introducing like continuity in the Clone Wars. One of my favorite things was the story where they're like on Hanagar, the Nagri homeworld, and you get to see the bioweapon that crashes on the planet. You get to see the Star Destroyer fighting the Separatists in the sky and the lightning. And they fight the Nagris. So great. I love continuity like that, connecting back to Heir to the Empire. So great. I love continuity like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome, and I think that's a thing that like I guess kind of to go back to my point that the prequel Clone Wars era kind of did very well is it did lay a really good foundation for that era to have its continuity, and by Clone Wars I mean the Clone Wars comic, because the segue into my point number 2 is that the Clone Wars, the 2008 Clone Wars, it's again, like the prequels, it's not as good as people say, and I think worse than that, because obviously, like, if it's just something I don't think is very good, I can just not watch it, not read it, etc. But it it was forced to, because at the time, obviously, there was the whole hierarchy of canon, blah, blah, blah. There was the George canon, continuity canon, secondary canon, not canon, blah, blah, blah. Well, then they end up inserting Dave Filoni's special TV show in there above everything else, but right below the movies. And so basically it just gave Dave Filoni, who everyone loves, to hold up on this super high pedestal and, kind of clean his boots a little bit. They hold him up and say, oh, Dave Filoni, he brought back Thrawn. He brought back the Noghri and everything. He brought back all this stuff, and you can really tell that he likes the expanded universe. No, he doesn't, because his 2008 show crapped all over the previously established continuity, just because he was given the free reign to. And the worst part is you end up with stuff that has to coexist in both, where it does not make sense. It should be one or the other, preferably the one that came before, because that's what was established. So then you end up with stuff that people, for the most part, say they love. They like, oh, Ahsoka. Well, Ahsoka was never mentioned in Episode 3, the Episode 3 novel, Labyrinth of Evil, none of the Republic comments, because Anakin being knighted was like it was fairly late into the war. And then all of a sudden, actually he was a knight for most of the war. He had a Padawan, and the things just don't match. And you get stuff like that throughout, but yet people say, oh, Clone Wars is the best thing to ever come from the EU or Legends, or thank God they ended up making it canon. Well, it only fits into canon because, canon doesn't have the Republic comics. It doesn't have Labyrinth of Evil, the Revenge of the Sith novel, or any of that stuff. So, I don't know. That's...
Right.
So that's my thing on it. Again,
so you said it disregarded, aspects of the previous continuity. What would you point? Could you point to anything specific?
Oh well, like I said, Ahsoka. Obviously, she had never been mentioned in anything previous. Well, I literally mentioned too, like the Anakin being a knight throughout the war.
Oh, right.
Like, obviously, like in the original 2004 Clone Wars, we see him get knighted, and it's into the war. Like we had mentioned previously, on Jabim, he's still Obi-Wan's Padawan.
Right.
And so that shifts the whole thing. They have it where...
yeah, it's like a year into the war or something until he...
Yeah, it's a while, because it's kind of towards the end, if I remember right, but I could be wrong again. Dates and times aren't my best strong suit, especially when it comes to Star Wars and its fictional calendars and everything. But no, so that throws it off. Evan Peel dies when he's still supposed to be alive in the chronology, given the Coruscant Nights trilogy. Well, and then there's other small stuff where Grievous and Obi-Wan fight, Anakin and Obi-Wan Dooku, which obviously in the movie and the novel, it's very, very heavily implied that they have not seen each other since Geonosis.
Right. Yeah, and in the Clone Wars show, they actually it's kind of funny. The Clone Wars show, they made a big deal to not ever have them meet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They went throughout the entire show. They made sure to never have Anakin and General Grievous meet, just because of that one line in Revenge of the Sith. So they cared about that one line in Revenge of the Sith so much, like that specifically. Yeah, I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, but then they end up having Obi-Wan fight him a bunch of times. When again, it's all very heavily implied. Especially in the movie, because the first time Grievous sees Obi-Wan, he's yes, the negotiator. It's that's not something you would say to someone that you've met before.
Right, he just knows him by reputation.
Yeah, exactly. And then... Yeah,
and of course, in the comics, I don't think they actually met. Ever.
No, they never do, because they're kind of antagonists throughout the Clone Wars is Ventress.
Yeah.
So that... Which I think was a really good idea, because then that frees up Dooku and Grievous to do, other stuff completely separated from Anakin and Obi-Wan. But then that's kind of just my points on it not fitting into the EU. In general,
I don't like Dirge getting thrown down the memory hole. not
Yeah,
used.
Dirge is never referenced. Well, actually, one of the big things that I was watching a video by another channel that's called Mandalore, and he did a whole video on how it fit in, and he pointed out that at the time that Quinlan Voss shows up in the Clone Wars comics, he's supposed to be undercover with Dooku.
Yeah.
Or when he shows up in the Clone Wars comics, when he shows up in the Clone Wars TV show, he shows up, and that's at the time period he's supposed to be undercover with Dooku. I misspoke. I said yeah.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so-
obviously it's not gonna.
Yeah, so
obviously they're not gonna talk about that.
so it's kind of hard. And again, that's and my biggest point on this is why people think that Legends: The Expanded Universe was so full of plot holes, is because of Clone Wars, because of all the plot holes that it created in the expanded universe. Obviously, we don't have time to get into them today, but
Well, I have a specific one I can think of. Well, at least because the Clone Wars overrode all other canon. We don't have a canon reason for why General Grievous is coughing in Episode 3.
well, he does it in the Clone Wars cartoon, doesn't he?
Does he?
I think he might. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't remember him ever coughing on the TV show.
I don't know. I think we talked about this just beforehand a previous time, but I don't think I've rewatched it since it was on Netflix. Obviously, I watched the newest season, but I haven't sat and watched the thing since it was on Netflix, which I want to say was 2017, because it was when I was in my second ever apartment. So that was the last time I watched it, about I think 4 years ago now. And but yeah, no. So, but no, if you are interested in all of that stuff, there actually is and I had referenced it earlier, there's a video by the channel Mandalore that goes into literally everything. So I would just check his video out. There's my name drop in my little reference to another channel that doesn't even know we exist. So Keith, what's your next one? I went on way too long with mine there.
Nah, you're fine. Yeah, for me, number 2 thing I would love an R-rated Darth Bane origin movie.
Okay.
Basically, just doing the Path of Destruction novel, but adapting it to the screen and not pulling any punches there. You know, maybe it could be like PG-13 or whatever. But basically, just a gritty, dark Darth Bane movie that tells the origin story and stuff like that. I think it would really work. I don't believe Disney or Lucasfilm will ever be in a position where they would want to make that. Maybe if it was like a fan thing, like hashtag Darth Bane movie or something like that, maybe. But
yeah, I don't think they're just gonna. They won't do it because obviously that whole story has been decanonized, and now Darth Bane exists as for some reason he's like a samurai ghost on Korriban. So, no, but I mean, I don't know. Me personally, I don't personally want any more stuff pulled from Legends, but I mean, like it could, it would be an interesting thing to see put on screen, because and I don't think it necessarily needs to be R-rated, because even Star Wars at its like darkest, grittiest is like PG-13. Maybe every once in a while it's like R, but I don't know. I think the whole R rating thing doesn't really matter personally to me, as long as the movie's good. The rating doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess just not a kiddified version of Darth Bane in the story.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean,
like, I would rather it just never be made than it be turned like Disney-fied.
Sure. Yeah, I think definitely, like, well, because it has all the stuff to have like an interesting plot to a movie.
Yeah. Because you don't even have to do anything. Just adapt the novel.
Mhm.
That's it. Just do that.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. It's like it's like a perfect movie inside it, because it has all like great plot points. It's like a little hero's journey for Darth Bane, but anti-hero's journey.
Well, villain's journey.
Or villain's journey.
Yeah,
Sure.
because he's definitely not a hero.
No, yeah.
It's definitely one of those things where the term protagonist does not mean good guy.
True. Thanks. Second year English.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, freshman year English class. But no, so is that about all you have for that one? Because I don't really have anything to add. I personally don't want to see it, but like I can understand like why it would be a good story. Or
Yeah, it's
movie.
just something I've always wanted. It's like it's on my top 5 wish list of things that I want in Star Wars.
Sure. Yeah, so then moving on from that one, my number 3 hot take is getting your lore, your knowledge of like the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars universe from YouTube videos or just reading Wikipedia. It is not nearly as good as like reading the source material. And by that, I don't mean you have to go through and you have to read every single novel and every single comic and every single short story and play every video game. I'm just saying, like, actually read something instead of just getting the plot synopsis from Wikipedia. Like, and even then, like, if you want like good like lore reading, just like read some of the source books. Like, if you want to know more about the Jedi, read the Jedi Path. It's like a short little like the Jedi. It's like basically like the Jedi Handbook, and it's like a really cool in-universe little source book. And like same thing, like, oh, if you're into like starships, there's books for starships, there's books for droids, there's books for there's an essential guide to warfare, there's an essential guide to the Force, where it's basically like a big source book on the entire history of the Jedi and Sith, all the way up to like the 40, I think it's like 40 ABY, so like it's all the way from the start all the way to like the end, and you get all like little handwritten stuff. So like there's so much better ways to get like your lore and like consume this stuff like that isn't watching like Star Wars YouTube. And obviously like I would never claim to be like the master of the lore or anything like and so many of these YouTube channels, especially a lot of the big ones, a lot of times they straight up just read off like the Wikipedia. Like I've watched videos, and obviously I'm not going to like call it any channels because we have like a minuscule following, so it'd be pointless, but like there have been channels where I've literally watched their video and then went to Wikipedia and it's literally just word for word.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. And then, there's that, and then so many people put like their own spins on the lore, and then the worst part is when you end up with like fan-made lore that everyone now thinks is like it's part of the actual lore, because then you end up with stuff like Grey Jedi being like this fan fiction definition of what they are. I've done a video on that. You get videos on lightsaber colors and and how they have super symbolic meaning. They don't. I've done a video on that. Like, you end up with all this stuff where people are basically just spouting off fan fiction like nonsense, and then it gets taken and twisted into like, oh, this is actually lore. Like, I could not tell you how many times I've been online on forums and people are saying, oh, Grey Jedi this and lightsaber colors that, and then you ask them, oh, well, where did you hear that? Oh, I heard it from so and so on YouTube. And it's like, oh no, stop it. So
yeah, I never liked getting lore from YouTube videos. It always seemed just so secondhand. It just, like I'm a reader. I've always read the Star Wars Legends books. So maybe it's not too hard for me to just, read a book. But
well,
I think it's a terrible way to get your lore is from YouTube videos. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, even from Wikipedia, like I've been on there and there's so much like fan edited stuff, and obviously like that's the same thing. That's why college professors say you shouldn't use Wikipedia as a source, because anybody can edit it. Like I could go onto Wikipedia right now and say that that Twi'leks are from Tatooine, or that the Sith wear purple polka dot underwear, and I could just put that on there and save it. And obviously that something that dumb would get taken down, but you end up, like I said, with this fan fiction stuff that gets put in to where Grey Jedi use both sides of the Force. That's on Wikipedia. Fortunately, lightsaber colors haven't made their way into having any special symbolism on Wikipedia, but you end up with so much stuff, and people can word stuff in ways that isn't false, but it's also not 100% true and all that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my biggest thing is like just it's like you said, like it's not hard to like read a book, and obviously like I don't know, like I'm sure people like it's just a thing. I think people don't read as much as they used to. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep it alive. Like I know, especially like if you have any kind of smartphone, you can get on Kindle, and you can find all the books. You can find all the source books. Even you can even get the comic books. So like if you're interested at all in the story, just like pick something and just start reading it. Like you can get the Kindle copies for like $5 a piece, so it's not really expensive to get into either. So I mean,
Plus, I'm pretty sure whenever you buy Legends books, the authors get like a royalty.
yep, they do. The
So
obviously,
you're supporting the great authors.
yeah. So I mean, I would say do that. Like if you want to know about the Jedi, like I said, the Jedi Path, easy. Quit consuming everything from YouTube. And again, I'm not saying don't watch YouTube videos, because they can be like fun to watch. Like, but
I mean, that would be kind of self-defeating.
that would
for
be
you, right?
self-defeating because we're trying to grow a channel. But no, basically what I mean is like, watch these videos, and if it interests you, go read something that's similar. Like if you're watching a video about a guy who's talking about, oh, well, the Jedi versus Sith Great Hyperspace War, it's like, oh, well, there's comics for that. Like, use that as like kind of a jumping off point, and don't, I guess the biggest point for me for this is don't take everything they say as fact. Like take it with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing for my third point here. So what is your third point? Or your third hot take, spicy take?
Hot take. The Dawn of the Jedi comic series is a good origin story for the Jedi. Now I know you in particular don't like it,
It's true. I do not like Dawn of the Jedi.
but I've read it all the way through, like the Force War comic and everything. And yeah, I just really liked it. I think it's a lot of the stuff that they talked about in the comic I had only read in like lore books before, like the Star Wars visual guide or the visual dictionary or whatever.
Yep.
And they have like all the comics listed like in continuity order or whatever, but they didn't say, like they would usually say like what comic a thing came from, but they didn't say where the Dawn of the Jedi stuff came from. They just talked about like Ashla and Bogan and the Jedi, how they started out and stuff like that. But like they didn't explain all the cool stuff that's in the comic that I kind of really appreciated. Like for one thing, it does the origin of the Jedi, while at the same time still kind of keeping some of the stuff in mystery. Like there is still some mystery in there. I like getting to see the there's the Rakatan Infinite Empire, which is like the the OG empire that like ruled the galaxy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
1,000 or so years before.
Yep. And
the
they
empire.
and that was obviously created from the Knights of the Old Republic comics. So if you've ever played that, it does have background to that too. So, or Knights of the Old Republic video game, not the comics. Sorry.
Oh yeah. If you're a KOTOR fan, yeah, Dawn of the Jedi adds background, tons of background on the Rakata. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I would never say, and again, like usually that's not my thing. I don't like to say stuff's bad. Like I don't like Dawn of the Jedi, but the main reason I personally don't like it is it's one of those things where it answers a question that I personally thought was cooler to leave unanswered. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I think it was cooler when like, oh, the Jedi evolved from they came from Tython and all this stuff. Like, I think that's cool, and that the Jedi Order has evolved, and obviously it's different in this area to this area to this, or this era to this era to this era.
Yeah.
It also commits the very heinous sin of it kind of retcons out that ancient humans came from Tatooine, which is a kind of a theory and whatever that comes from Knights of the Old Republic, and just the fact that it got rid of that in a way, I don't think it outright like says that it can't be true, but I think it pretty well disputes it because some other species came from Tatooine.
I think you might be right, because the last time, because I was rereading it and they were on Tatooine. It was like a lush planet still and stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, it wasn't a human planet. It was some other alien species, I believe.
Yep, and so it kind of throws a wrench in that, and I really... One day we're going to do a video on Knights of the Old Republic, and I'm going to end up spending an hour talking about the Tusken Raider storyteller. But no, no, again, like if you're interested in like where the Jedi came from, I would say yeah, it's probably a good comic. It's not for me. It's not really my vibe or anything. So
Yeah, if you wanted something else from the Jedi origin story besides the Skywalker Prime or whatever, then try Dawn of the Jedi.
yeah. So anything else you got on Dawn of the Jedi you need to?
I don't know. I kind of like the whole. I like the origin of the lightsaber, I guess. Well, in the comic they call it a force saber, and it's like force powered.
Well,
Stuff.
it's basically just like a force katana, right?
No, it's
more
like
or
a
less.
it's like a lightsaber hilt, and you turn it on and lightsaber blade comes out. No battery or anything. It's powered by dark side force energy.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
but they do also use katanas, right?
Oh yeah, they use like regular swords. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, before they got because they didn't have lightsaber technology for a long time, so they just used regular swords.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. That's what I meant. Because the force sabers, the Rakata used those, right? Like it's like a Rakatan invention. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
I love the design of the force saber because it looks like a mini, freaking, what's that? What's the giant Death Star thing from KOTOR?
Starforge.
The Starforge. Okay, I don't know why I was thinking like Star Killer. Yeah, it kind of looks like a mini version of the Starforge. You get to see like more Rakatan ships, and the Rakata are just so like evil. It's like just great. It just feels so. I just really liked the feeling and the aesthetic of the comic. It just felt so like like primal Star Wars for me.
Sure.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Star Killer because my fourth spicy hot take is that there hasn't been a good Star Wars game since the first Force Unleashed.
Whoa.
Yeah, very very spicy. That's some buffalo sauce that I'm just put down on the plate there. But no, and again, good is this is my subjectivity of good. Like since the Force Unleashed, obviously the Force Unleashed 2 came out, which was nowhere near the first game, and it also
It was hot, sweaty ass.
it wasn't bad per se. It was just really short, and the story's just kind of rushed.
Surprisingly short.
Very short, yeah. Because you do what, like you do Camino, then you go to Kedna Moedia, then you do a couple missions on the Rebel ship, and then bam, you're bam back on Camino, and you fight Vader.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's four planets or 3 planets in a ship. Well, no, it's 2 planets in a ship because you go back to the first planet. Whereas the first Force Unleashed game, yeah, later on you end up doing some backtracking back to Kashyyyk and Felucia and Raxus Prime, and basically the whole second act of the game is basically all retreads.
Do you have like a preferred version of The Force Unleashed?
The novel. I think the novel is the best representation of it. But obviously, since we're talking about games, I played the first time I actually played the game through was on the Wii.
Oh shit!
Because we never had. I didn't get a Xbox 360 until 2008. I want to say.
I believe the Wii version of Force Unleashed is the same as the PS2 version.
It is, yeah. Except the graphics just look a little better because obviously the PlayStation was a last gen at the time, so the game looks it looks like in between the PlayStation 2 and like I guess at the time next gen. But yeah, like the PS3 360 version. But no, I think I don't know because the 2 Jedi Temple missions that you get for the Wii and PS2 versions, they don't really add anything to the story. So, but they're kind of cool. You get to fight like projections of like ancient Sith lords. I think the DLC that allows you to go to the Jedi Temple that came out for the 360 and PS3 version, I think just the PS3 Xbox 360 version is the best version, especially with the Jedi Temple DLC. But no, I think that that's the last like good Star Wars game. And again, good is very subjective to me. After that, like I said, we had Force Unleashed 2 came out, and then we had a bunch of tie-in games to the Clone Wars cartoon, which I
Or
don't
not
think.
good.
Well, I don't know if they're good or not. It's just I don't remember ever seeing commercials for them or anything, and I don't know anyone who played them. Obviously,
I tried playing Republic Heroes. No, not
Oh,
good.
sure, yeah. I know they did a Lego version of the Clone Wars.
Also not that good.
Oh, again, I didn't play it. I didn't even know it came out until a couple years ago, when obviously it's probably almost a decade old.
Yeah, they made it when like Clone Wars only had like 2 or 3 seasons.
Oh, sure. So, then, also we had Star Wars Connect. Huge.
Oh god, I completely forgot about Star Wars Connect.
Everyone should. Everyone wants to. Everyone wants to forget that it happened. Because the Connect was such a massive failure. It no one wants to remember it anyways.
Right. I'm Solo. I'm Han Solo.
I'm Han Solo. But yeah, no, it's a dance game and it's not cool. And then basically from those games, I'm pretty sure there was like a long break until you get Battlefront 2015, which nobody liked. And then you get Battlefront 2, which a lot of people do like, but I personally don't like. I think that it's kind of clunky gameplays wise. The story is okay. I think people overly dump on the story. Like, they say that we were advertised to get like a from the Empire's point of view story, but not really. It's just the characters in the trailers happen to be Imperial. Like, they never said that it was going to be from the Empire's point of view, so I guess you can't really be surprised when the Imperials turn to the Rebellion. So I don't know. That's just me on that. But the gameplay wise, I don't think it's that good. And but like, I think the golden age for Star Wars games was from like the mid 90s until the first Force Unleashed game.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty great era. Pretty much, yeah, all the great Star Wars games came out then. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm not just saying that from like nostalgia. Well, even like, it's not just that the games I don't think are as good. There's also been like a lack of games. Like I said, from like the Clone Wars video games and Connect, you didn't really have anything up until the first Battlefront, and obviously since then, even since EA got the license, excuse me, we've had Battlefront 2, Fallen Order, and Pilots. So we've only had 4 games, and they've had the license for 7 years. So
And Rogue Squadrons is basically just Battlefront piloting the game.
yeah, or Squadrons, you mean, not Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
You said Rogue Squadron. So, but
yeah,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. But no, that's my take, and I think that should be nice and controversial and spicy, because I know a lot of people do like the second Battlefront game after all the updates that came out.
Do you prefer the old school Battlefront 2 and 1 to the new ones?
I
Like,
do.
would you play those first?
I would play those first, but again, it's not down for me. It's not down to nostalgia. It's because the new ones, to me, they feel, I don't know how to describe it, but they feel clunky. It doesn't feel smooth. Everything, and even just like as far as like the multiplayer goes, I think it's annoying if I want to play the big Galactic Assault or whatever game mode. You have to play each map twice, and there's not a lot of maps. So, because I just played it this summer. This is the last time I played it. So there is Kashyyyk, Naboo, Kamino, Crate, Hoth, Endor, and off the top of my head, that's all there is. So there's 6 maps to play on. And I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. There's probably more, but like 6 maps, and you have to play each one, twice, because you have to play one game on each side. Like, there's just a lot of decisions, not to mention like the whole BS that EA tried to do with all the microtransactions going into 2. And yeah, people say it got like flipped over and now it's not as bad, But like if you're trying to get into the game now, it's nearly impossible because everyone is going to have all these advantages because they have their star cards. It still has microtransactions, but yeah, they're not mandatory. But in my opinion, you have to do way too much in multiplayer to get like more heroes.
Right.
So yeah, it's down to a lot more than just I like the old one better, because I think that
It's not just gameplay for you.
well, it's gameplay plus a lot of like the business practices around it, and obviously when the game released it had no content. And to me, that's kind of an unforgivable thing. Like when games like Battlefront 2, which are these big huge AAA games, come out and they don't and they only, for example, like they have like a lack of game modes, a lack of heroes, and all this stuff gets patched in over 2 years. But then, since it's, the big Star Wars game, I feel like it gets a pass. But that's just me. The game's not for me. None of the games that have come out since then I haven't really liked. But again, like if you like the games, more power to you, and you're the one who's, the opposite side of my hot take. So that's why it's a hot take, because a lot of people like the stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, what would be your point number 4 coming off that?
Number 4, bring back Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator of 2003 Clone Wars and Samurai Jack, to make more Star Wars cartoons. Now, I don't think this would be particularly hard because we got him back for a new season of Samurai Jack. So why not start? Him making Star Wars cartoons. And you might say, well, Lucasfilm, they wouldn't want to do a cartoon or whatever, but they do have the Clone Wars as being this big canon thing. So I think they'd definitely be open to doing a cartoon with Genndy Tartakovsky. He has experience with the company. He did a great job, last time. He did such a great job with the first volume of the Clone Wars that, they made a second because George Lucas's son wanted to see the end of the story so bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would. I'm not super huge into the new canon or anything, but if they brought back Genndy Tartakovsky like to do a cartoon, I would definitely watch it, just because like he's kind of got that like Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to gold. Like, and you had mentioned Samurai Jack in the first run of the Clone Wars cartoon from 2004. He also does another animated series called Primal that is also very good. It's on Hulu, I believe. It's an Adult Swim original.
Oh yeah. I've seen like the first episode.
Yeah, no, it's very good. I watched the first half of the season. I think the second half was delayed because of COVID, but I don't even think that's a hot take. That's just a really good take, because his stuff it's just very good. So as long as you had like a good like story writing team behind it, because obviously he didn't, he wasn't writing the dialogue and story or anything.
Right. I should probably. I'll have to look up whoever wrote that, because whoever did, they did a fucking great job.
Yeah,
just the attention to the continuity of the comics and just the detail and just adapting everything almost pretty much perfectly from the comics. So good. That's the kind of Star Wars. That's the kind of Star Wars adaptations I like. That's the kind of Star Wars media I like. Like if you want to point at like somebody that understands Star Wars, I would point at Genndy Tartakovsky when he made the 03 Clone Wars, right? Not to like overhype him up or whatever, but it just seems like an intuitive understanding of Star Wars, right? Like minimal dialogue, huge action scenes while still giving great story and character development. It all works.
Oh no,
I have no idea what the new thing he would make would be, but it could be anything. But I would definitely like something as good as the 03 Clone Wars. Maybe that's too high of a bar to set, but I would hope it's at least as good, if not better.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and speaking of like what it could be, and I'm not gonna like throw out any ideas, but like if it was something a bit more like focused on like a single character, because you said you watched the first episode of Primal, like his work on something like that where it's centered around one character and his dinosaur, so basically like two air quotes main character. Like I think he could do like a really good like a smaller scale, kind of like The Mandalorian, where it's more focused on like a smaller, like, you know, obviously there's Mando, the main character, and you know, Grogu, Baby Yoda.
Right.
You know, I think he could probably do something really good like that.
Maybe
Um,
like a cartoon show in the style of like Samurai Jack, kind of like slower, but
yeah, yeah,
action, kind of episodic.
yeah, something like that where it's like following. Oh, I don't know. I didn't think of Samurai Jack. Like obviously, yeah, because it follows around him. You know, and Star Wars, like it has that kind of nice thing to where like each episode can be a different planet, a different, you know, little story, you know, very episode driven. Like I think he could do something great, and I would definitely watch it just for the sheer fact of like it, you know, it's Tartakovsky. So
Right. I think everybody could probably get behind, yeah, getting a Tartakovsky. But I haven't heard anybody, you know, advocating or asking for Gendy back. You know, you think people would.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, as far as that goes, I'd be down for that.
All right.
So
One.
yeah, so but no, now we're gonna get into, well, for me, my final hot take, controversial opinion, whatever, is this is the really hot one that a lot of people probably, well, you know, a lot is relative to our very small viewer base. But no, like the one that I think a lot of people ignore and a lot of people choose to ignore is that, for my final hot take, is that Star Wars has always been political. It hasn't been political just because Disney bought it. It's not political because they had a female lead. It's not political because there's a black stormtrooper now. No, it's always been political. Like if you've ever watched interviews with George Lucas, he has said that the rebels, who are the good guys, you know, obviously, I don't. Well, people do argue that the rebels aren't the good guys, but
Right. Unironically.
they yeah, very unironically argue that, well, there's a subreddit called Empire Did Nothing Wrong. So
And I think half the people that say that are just kind of like, you know, shit posting basically. But
yeah, like I could definitely see that. Maybe not half, but no, it's like a very, like there are people who think the rebels aren't good guys, but the rebels in Star Wars by George Lucas in the original trilogy are based off of the Viet Cong. And the Empire is a stand-in for the American government.
Really?
That's how he wrote it. It was, well, not the government, but like the Nixon administration.
I always thought the I always thought the Empire was representative like the British Empire.
Well, the British Empire didn't have anything to do with Vietnam. Like his whole,
No, but like I thought it was like they're like obviously everyone in the Empire, you know, has a British accent, right? You know,
sure,
Britain did have
yeah.
a great empire at one time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I could see how you could see that, but no, the original trilogy is the good guys being the Viet Cong, and the Empire is America. Even I think it was in a recent interview I saw. Oh, shoot, I wish. I will actually try. I'll find the interview and I'll put the link in the description for anyone who cares to watch it. But George Lucas literally in this decade, in the last 10 years, has said like the rebels were the Viet Cong and America is the Empire. And then in interviews when the prequels were coming out, I think more specifically Episode 3 than anything, like a lot of lines from Anakin, I think, when he's talking about like, I brought peace and freedom and justice and security to my new empire, I think that he confirmed that was like a take on the Bush administration in the early 2000s. Like, yeah, like Star Wars has always been political. It's,
I mean, yeah, I mean, you watch something like Episode 2, you know, which came out like a year after 9/11. You know, it's like
yeah,
the final
and
battle is like on a desert planet and all this stuff. You know, yeah, you could definitely see that. Yeah,
you know, it's definitely
I
yeah,
always thought the Empire were more like space Nazis, though.
yeah, well, they're based on like both. They have elements of both, I think, is what it's supposed to be. Well, I think more obvious, well, very obviously, like stormtroopers are called stormtroopers, which was a thing from the SS in Nazi Germany. So, like, that's where that comes from. But I think the biggest inspiration on him is, and this is just what I'm taking from interviews, is that it was meant to be like a take on the Vietnam War, where like the good guys are like these rebel fighters or the guerrilla fighters, excuse me.
Right.
But yeah, so all of a sudden saying in 2021, keep your politics out of my Star Wars, like it's always been political. It's and
But to be fair, when the original Star Wars came out, George Lucas was not like shoving Vietnam, Vietnam War. What's the word I'm looking for here? He wasn't like shoving like anti-Vietnam War propaganda at people, or like saying in like all his interviews at the time, like it's just it's indicative of the Vietnam War. Like it was at the obviously he probably could have based it around that and all that, but the movie itself, it wasn't like political. Like it has, I would say it has political undertones, but I don't think the movies themselves are political.
I mean, this is just me, and I'm not saying that my opinion has any greater, but I think they've always been political. And again, like it could just be where Lucas wasn't, and obviously he couldn't put like the anti-Vietnam War stuff because the Vietnam War was over by the time episode 4 or the first Star Wars came out. But I definitely would say that like it's not meant to be neutral, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think everybody's ever watched like the classic Star Wars and gotten something political out of it.
I think you definitely could, because it's kind of the very old kind of thing of people fighting against like an oppressive authoritarian government. Like, and obviously that in itself doesn't have to, I guess, explicitly be political, but
right.
I
mean, yeah, I mean a lot of it is just like classic archetypes and stuff like that used for the movie, but I don't know, man. I don't like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. They just I don't see them as being political. Like they can obviously have political undertones in them, but I guess it's what you mean exactly by them being political. And obviously you're responding to people complaining about politics being inserted into the sequel trilogy. I don't know where I was going with that.
Sure. And again, that's just my hot take, is that Star Wars has always been, even if the political message isn't, sat there, and said super out loud in the movie, but you can get, like I said, you can get things like the stormtroopers from the original trilogy. Like that's obviously, a real thing pulled from a real government that existed in the 30s and 40s to be shown to be the bad guys. Like obviously the Empire, they're this, fascistic authoritarian regime. And obviously, the good guy guerrilla fighters are fighting against it. I don't think it's meant to be... I think that is one of the things where you're supposed to read the lines. Like, he doesn't come out and say it in the movie that, these guys are, the American government. I think it's supposed to be one of the things where you're supposed to be able to draw from it that it is. But, it's not, like, very well... It's not stated in the movies, I guess, as opposed to you're supposed to draw it from that. Because...
Right.
And then you have... I would argue by the time of episode 3, like, it's becoming a bit more, like, loud, because, like I said, I'm pretty sure Anakin's peace, freedom, etc. thing, I think that comes from... It's pulled from, like, a George Bush quote. I believe, or he said something similar, and Lucas kind of just worded it around different. It's definitely meant... Like, that is supposed to be a reference to, like, real stuff. And I don't think there's a problem with that. Like, obviously, he's the creator. He can, he can say and put in his things. And I don't think it's something very hard to miss. And I don't know. When I hear people, like, saying that Star Wars is political now, they remind me of, like, the kind of people who are like, I didn't know Rage Against the Machine doesn't like the government. Why is this music so political? It kind of reminds me of that, where, like, yeah, it's always been political. It's just, I think people, and again, I don't care if people hate me or love me, but like I think it's just people don't like when it's not their politics being put into the media they're watching. And that's kind of my point on it. That's my hot take. That's my last hot take, is that, Star Wars has always been political, so that's not really a point you should use. And I'll even say it, like, the Star Wars has always been like a left-leaning medium. So that's kind of my big point on it, to sum it up, is that it's pointless to complain about it now when it's always been political since 77.
Right. Yeah, just to kind of add my own last thoughts on that, I guess. Yeah, so the series is called Star Wars, right? And politics is just war without the fighting.
Yeah, it's word
And
wars.
they even, and of course, George even brings in actual politics into the prequels. Where you see politicians and all this stuff, and like political corruption. Which is a very big part of the prequels, right?
Yeah.
Like I could definitely point to it there. Like, oh yeah, that is a, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Allegory?
I was gonna say not like a criticism. It's a criticism of
yeah.
like politics. The corrupt politicians, stuff like that. So I guess I would ultimately have to agree with you on that one. It's always been political.
Yeah, well, and even if you want to, again, take it one step further, since you mentioned the prequels, the bad guys from Episode 1 are free market capitalists. So take that what you will, if you want to say it's not political. And they want less taxes. So the bad guys of the prequels are that. So, don't shoot
George Lucas criticizing free market capitalists as he makes billions off of action figures.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think George Lucas ever argued for repealing taxes, but that's besides the point. This obviously is not the politics channel. So
no, it's the whole point. The taxation of trade routes has it's affected outlying systems. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So what were you saying was going to be your last big spicy take?
Yes. Take number 5. Some of the things in the Plagueis novel are kind of dumb, and I don't think they make sense with the rest of the Legends continuity. Plagueis was a Legends novel, right?
It was, yes, 100%.
It just kind of came out at the end there. My biggest things, it's only like 2 things. I'm pretty much fine with a lot of the other stuff the book does, with like basically being like a prequel to the prequels.
Yep.
Like, okay, and in the book, Anakin, they basically they say that Anakin's like mind can't be read, like his feelings are hidden beneath the surface for some reason. Like he just has, in Plagueis novel, they just say that Anakin has the innate ability to hide his true feelings. Which is supposed to be like a retcon that like explains away why, like why the council never sensed that Anakin was going to the dark side or whatever like that. Well, for one thing, if you just watch the Phantom Menace, like, because it's funny in the book, the scene is like Palpatine is like greeting the whole party at Coruscant, and they're just getting off the ship, and he like senses Anakin, and he's like, whoa, I can't like penetrate his feelings or whatever. And then in the movie, the next like scene or so is Anakin being in front of the council, and they're just talking like them, and they're reading him like a book, totally reading him like a book. Your thoughts dwell on your mother, you're scared, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, because Yoda literally says in the movies, he's like, much fear we sense in you.
Yeah, so that right there is just completely wrong. It totally clashes with the movie continuity, which is the ultimate sin. So that's a big thing for me. I like a lot of the retroactive continuity they put in the Plagueis novel, but not that. That's stupid. Another thing is Palpatine. Palpatine also has special force powers that are just explained in this book. Basically, I think like the first time Plagueis meets Palpatine, he doesn't realize that he's force sensitive because Palpatine has he just has the innate ability to hide his force sensitivity, which I just immediately thought was dumb, because I from reading previous Legends novels like Darth Bane and like some of the comics and stuff, they talk about like Sith sorcery, and like in Darth Bane Rule of Two, um, Darth Xana, I think she's Darth Xana at the time. She infiltrates the Jedi Temple, but basically using Sith sorcery to not only mask her her dark side aura, but to also project a light side aura. So I just thought that would have been cooler if like they just said, Palpatine uses like super powerful like Sith sorcery to like hide his unbelievable Force presence. And well, okay, they kind of talk about it in a different way. They say like Palpatine is like he's like a black hole in the Force, like that, or something like that. Right? He like sucks in all the Force around him or something like that. Like they explain it in some weird way like that.
Yeah, I know they do, and you're definitely right. There is some stuff in the Plagueis novel that I don't like either. I think the way that they introduced Darth Maul is very dumb because
because they tied it with the Clone Wars continuity.
Wars, which made Darth Maul from Dathomir, which was really stupid. And yeah, for some reason Palpatine is on Dathomir, and for some reason Darth Maul's mother comes up and she's like, "Oh, please take my baby. I don't want him to be on this planet. Please take him away. I can tell you're strong in the Force." Which is kind of pointless because isn't Sidious supposed to be able to hide his Force presence? So how can this random Dathomiri witch know that he has the Force? It's like a very clunky way of getting Maul into the story, which later on you get some really good interactions between Palpatine and Plagueis talking about Maul, but like I think the way they introduce him is just very like ham-fisted, clunky, not good.
Yeah, also him just being like tattooed as a baby isn't as cool as him tattooing himself out of like devotion to the dark side.
Well, Sidious gives him the tattoos originally.
Yeah, however he gets the tattoos.
Yeah, it's much better done as that's how he. It's much better when that's how he becomes versus that's just how he is.
Right.
So, but I think for the most part, well, I think that the worst thing in the Plagueis novel is all the talk about the Chosen One, because I hate the Chosen One prophecy from the prequels.
Really?
So I cannot stand. Have we never talked about this?
No, we actually haven't.
Oh, I hate the prophecy of the Chosen One because it makes Anakin important in like the laziest way by making him Jedi Jesus who was born from a virgin birth. He's literally Jedi Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a lazy way to make Anakin important. They should have written George, when he was writing the prequels, should have just been like, "Oh, Anakin is important because he's the hero of the Clone Wars, not because he's Jedi Jesus."
Yeah, he could have had it based more around his actual character and strength, and not just like his prophecy thing. But maybe he wanted to be more like this, mythical Greek tragedy kind of thing. The prophecy. I don't think they ever explain where that prophecy comes from in anything.
I'm sure they do, but I personally have no idea where it comes from. Well, it comes from George Lucas. That's where it comes from.
No, right, but like they never like explained it outside of.
Like, they never explain it in the
even like the Phantom Menace novelization.
I'm honestly not too sure because like it's honestly just kind of like it's very silly and it just never should have been a thing in my opinion.
That's an interesting take. Is it a hot take? Maybe.
I guess I should have had that be my hot take, but like I think that like bonus 6th hot take for me, I guess. But yeah, no, I think the prophecy of the Chosen One, it's lazy. It makes Star Wars too fantasy instead of sci-fi. And I guess I get the whole thing is like it's not science fiction, it's science fantasy, it's a space opera. But like it's never mentioned in the OT. The first time it was ever mentioned that there was a Jedi Chosen One was in Phantom Menace. It's really and well, the thing with me is I don't mind midichlorians. Midichlorians don't bother me. It's when having 50 billion midichlorians per cell or whatever is what makes him the Chosen One. And I get it. He wanted to make Anakin important in the galaxy for a specific reason. But I think it just works better if, he's a Jedi. He can be a really important Jedi. He can be a really strong in the Force Jedi. But I think it gets really lazy and really not cool when he's the chosen one. Because then you have him talk, that's all Qui-Gon talks about in the first movie. Once he meets Anakin, he's like, oh, he's the chosen one. He's the chosen one. Chosen one. Chosen one.
You're stepping on some toes here, because a lot of people like the chosen one thing and the way it ties in with the OT and Darth Vader turning back to the light at the end and all that.
Yeah.
Do you think that doesn't matter to the Anakin and Darth Vader's story?
No, I don't think it should matter. I think the whole thing is that you could have had the prequel trilogy. Make Anakin not be the chosen one, and what changes? He's still...
So basically, you would just have Qui-Gon, take him just because he's super powerful or something?
Well, I think they should have started off the prequels with Anakin being a Jedi.
You mean just what do you mean?
I mean, I'm like I've said before, I'm not a screenwriter, but they should have had it where episode 1, episode 1, 2, and 3 are just Anakin's fall to the dark side, but in episode 1, he just happens to start as a Jedi.
I mean, definitely would have been more expedient to tell the story that way.
Well, it would have been better. Yeah. And the chosen one, like I said, if you have Anakin still just be a really powerful, Force savant, and then not have him be the chosen one and not have this prophecy, does anything really change in the prequels?
Yeah, it kind of doesn't really matter to the story. They bring it up a few times, but they bring it up once in Revenge of the Sith, but that's it. All right. And it kind of just serves as I guess a tragic irony thing. You were the chosen one. You were meant to destroy the Force, not join it, or whatever.
Yeah, well, and again, that's the point.
Or destroy the Sith. That's what he said.
I don't think it's ever brought up in 2, or I mean, it probably is, but who watches 2? But no, it's such an inconsequential part of the story that was put there to immediately build Anakin up as important when we know he's important because he's the main villain of the OT.
Right.
You can still have the story be about Anakin Skywalker. It's just they should have had episode 1 start with him as a Jedi or as a Padawan. Episode 2 can still happen the same way it does. Episode 3 can happen the same way it does. And nothing changes if he's not the chosen one. You could still just have him be the most talented Jedi ever.
Right, yeah, the best star pilot in the galaxy.
Yeah, the best star pilot, the best duelist, and all that. Have him naturally be powerful in the Force, that's all fine. It's just when you're adding stuff like a virgin birth in the Star Wars to get your Jesus allegory across, it's a little too heavy-handed.
Yeah, you make some good points there, man. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I mean we got a way spin-off from Darth Plagueis having a couple things into, my God, I specifically hate the Chosen One prophecy because. But yeah, no,
we have branching hot takes.
Yeah, branching hot takes. That's how hot your take was. Is that it spun off into my own hot take? So, I mean, I guess back to topic. Did you have anything you wanted to add on Plagueis having some stuff you don't like?
No, chlorine. I'm pretty much okay with a lot of the stuff it does. Maybe. No, that's yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say.
All right, for sure. So it sounds like that's it for our hot takes. So I guess there's nothing really to add. Those were our hot takes. Feel free down in the comment to leave any of your hot takes if you want to have a discussion about our hot takes. Obviously feel free to add in the comments whatever you want. Obviously just keep it civil, as civil as you can be, talking about hot takes.
Right, but if you have any controversial Star Wars opinions, now is the time.
Yeah, now's the perfect time to put them down there. And also, of course, if you're enjoying any of the content we've been putting out at the Legends Library, drop a like on the video, and, subscribe to the channel. And, I haven't really mentioned it, but I guess since we're kind of just on the topic of it, and, we've mentioned a couple times in the video, like, we are, like, obviously trying to grow the channel. So, like, if you have anywhere that, like, you would want to put this stuff, like, obviously, like, give us some shout out, because word of mouth just helps the channel grow. Like, I'm not in it to become like a billionaire or anything. Like, I just like talking about Star Wars. I'm sure it's the same with you. Like, I mean, if I become a billionaire doing it, like, that's pretty cool. But like,
That'd be nice too.
It's not gonna happen. But if it did, I wouldn't be mad. But no, I think really, like, it would be great if we had some more interaction on our videos, because we kind of, we have our tiny little following of, I think, 49 people. So if you guys would do us the favor, I guess, of sharing this out there. If there's any any subreddits or anything that you put this stuff, or any if you have any friends or family who are into it, send it to them. If you're in any Discord chats or anything, just pop a link in there. We love to get this kind of discussion and stuff. Like, I'm down to argue in the comments about Star Wars, as long as I'm not like working or anything. So,
right. Please feel free to comment.
Yeah, definitely leave a comment, leave your own stuff. It helps us with the algorithm. So, I mean, with that, I'm Cade from the Legends Library.
And I'm Keith. Later.
Yeah, and we will see you next time.